So today, my son told me he's got a flat tire on his dirt bike. As you can see, it's flat. I tried to put air into it, and I don't know if you can see in the video, but the valve stem's twisted and he ripped it right out of the tube. So we're gonna go through and take the tire off and put a new tube in it. From his bike, it's a 17 mil and a 21 mil. And you don't have to mess with the chain tightener at all when you're doing a tube. With the nut loose, take the adjuster off, set that aside. And in here there's a spacer, and on the other side spacer. So push the bolt in just a little bit so you can slide the tire forward. And now you can slip the chain off. And then just pull the bolt out. And I ain't gonna be able to do that one-handed, but I just gotta be careful not to lose the spacer. Little spacer, bigger spacer. The rotor, or the brake bracket's gonna come loose. You just gotta be careful. With the tire off, rotor sticking up so you don't bend it when you're working on it. I got 2 small tire spoons, that's all I'm going to use. Just wedge it in there, peel it over, work your way around. I'm going to leave the valve stem in it for a minute because it's wrecked anyways. The tube's no good, it's non-fixable, so I'm not really worried about it. Once you peel over one side, you just keep cramming your tire iron in there and prying it back, working around. Like so. So one side's off. And then you can reach in here and pull out the bad tube. And again, it's kind of hard one-handed. With the old tube out, now's a good time to check your spokes, make sure they're all tight. These bikes, they loosen up super easy, and if you don't keep an eye on them, you'll wreck a rim. I've already tightened these ones. Important thing is this rubber band here. It covers all your spokes. Right there's the hole for the valve stem. Make sure that's in good shape. If it's not, I mean, I've done it a few times, you just wrap your rim with electrical tape. You just don't want to be able to see all the spoke caps there. They'll put holes in your tires quick. So now that the tire's all checked, there's no nails in it or anything, I'm ready to start putting it together. And the big thing that they don't do from the factory is put baby powder inside the tire. It keeps the tire from sticking to the tube in case it does slip, and it'll rip out that valve stem just like it did. So you just tip it up. Puff baby powder all through there. It ain't gonna hurt nothing, lots of it. Once the tire's full of baby powder, you gotta fish that valve stem up inside the tire and through the hole, and then feed it around the rim. And as you're feeding it around the rim, you want to make sure to tuck it down to the bottom side of that rim, because you don't want to pinch it with your tire iron when you're going around. Like I said, see? You don't want that like that. You want to reach down in there and make sure it's way down in the rim. With the tube fed in, now we have to put it back on the bead. Right there's the valve stem, so we're going to start here and work our way around, and we want to finish right here at the end. After the tire's back on its bead, it's time to air it up. I'm going to use nitrogen because I'm too lazy to walk out to my actual garage, and I have a nitrogen tank here, but compressed air works just fine. Guys, if you don't have tire irons, go buy a set. I've done this trick with flathead screwdrivers, and I've ripped tubes more than I've been successful at it. I mean, you can do it, it's just chances of pinching a tube is so high with screwdrivers, it's not worth it. Tire irons are cheap. Get yourself a set. Also, I have seen people lube tires. I do it dry. To each their own. If you do lube it, some soapy water works pretty well. Windshield washer fluid, any of that stuff will work. With your tire all aired up, check it for leaks. We can pre-assemble it. Spacer first. I always do sprocket side first. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to show you one-handed, but with the bolt most of the way through, we can start by putting our spacers on for the other side, lining it up, making sure our rotor adapter is still in its slot, and then line up our brake rotor to the pads, which is impossible to do one-handed. And then we will slip in this, push the bolt the rest of the way through. With all the spacers back in, the bolt just started. We can push the tire forward and put the chain back on, and slide our chain adapter up, push the bolt the rest of the way through. Put that adjuster on, put the nut on, tighten it down, and we're all set. With the bike all back together and on the ground, the last thing we got to do is make sure we pump up our brakes. Because I pushed the piston in on the brake caliper ever so slightly when I was putting it back together. So I don't want my son to go out there and hit the brakes and not have nothing. You just keep pumping it until it firms up. And that's it. And if you were wondering what I use to lift bikes and four-wheelers, it's a Harbor Freight lift table is all it is. And I lift anything from my 250R to big Polaris Sportsman's. I've changed transmissions with that. That thing's awesome. It's the best money I've ever spent. I mean, I have lift style dirt bike lifts. Doesn't compare. This thing rolls right underneath. It's on wheels. When you lift it up, you can spin things around. Best money I've ever spent.